In order to achieve a passable female voice, you need to reduce your resonance. Resonance is the space in which sound reverberates. In order to reduce your resonance, you need to raise your larynx, that was in my last video, and manage mouth space, that's in this video. So you can do these lessons without watching the last one, but I do recommend watching that before or after this lesson. It's just kind of essential. Well, it's not kind of essential, it is essential. This lesson is a very practical approach, meaning you'll have to do a few exercises alongside me, and by the end of this video, you'll have a full understanding as to why and how this works, as well as a toolkit to practice with down the road. So the tongue is a major component in this. By saying the word key, you can feel roughly where the tongue is going to be, ideally when you start using your voice. Is it going to be exactly there? Definitely not. But that's roughly where it will want to be. So say key, hold the E sound, and hold the tongue up. That's roughly where it's going to want to be. Now, if you can imagine your voice passing through your esophagus and bouncing off your tongue to the top of your mouth, you can already see that that's shrunk down quite a bit. With a raised larynx, you will have actually a pretty decent foundation as to moving forward. But this next lesson is going to be a bit more refinement on that idea. This is just to show you where the tongue will roughly be. Okay, so I hate to honestly put you through this. We're gonna have to speak like a valley girl. There's a few reasons as to why, and this isn't an accent that you'll need to use down the road, but we're going to be using the valley girl accent because it's a really good explanation and example as to the sound resonating both in the nose and the mouth when done appropriately, when not leaned into too heavily. And while doing that, we'll be saying the word seriously, okay? Now, for your ease of access, I'm going to be doing this in two different examples, both with my guy voice and with my femme voice, and befores and afters, so you can kind of see where you want to be, and I'm going to explain to you the things that I modify as I do this. So basically, if you follow me step by step, whether or not you know how to raise your larynx, you'll be good to go. First, in my androgynous tone, seriously. Next, with the valley girl accent, seriously. A lot more resonance is passing through my nose, and my tongue is pushing up a bit higher, constricting the space and making the sound overall a higher pitch. Once again, in my androgynous tone, seriously. Now I'm going to use the valley accent. However, I'm going to constrict my jaw and my mouth, making sure they don't open up as much as I usually would. Seriously. You can hear it's a bit higher pitch, and that's because mainly the tongue is managing the resonance, but the jaw and mouth space will help. This time I'm going to drop my larynx. I'm not going to be holding it up at all, meaning I'll be in my natural deep tone. So larynx is now dropped. Seriously. With the valley girl accent. Seriously. You can hear it goes up a bit more, but it doesn't quite sound passable because the main component is missing, and that's the larynx. You gotta raise the larynx, that's the main piece here. But the mouth space is just as important. You need both of these components to be working in unison, and the good news is when you're raising your larynx, your tongue is actually lifting naturally with it as well. So we know that resonance is very important, both in the larynx being raised and the mouth itself. Now, the valley girl accent is a tool for you to use to explore. Do not lean too far into being too nasally. Don't look at it as the way you need to speak. The way you need to speak is the way you should be comfortable with, but this is a way for you to find out what works for you and where your resonance is bouncing. It's just a tool for you to use to kind of work towards the larger picture, but definitely use it. This is very confusing, I know, but as you continue forward, it gets less and less confusing. And the good news is when you start practicing raising your larynx, your tongue is actually going to be in an elevated position anyway. And eventually, you'll be using your ear to hear and kind of work with what sounds good, and your muscles will follow suit. Think of literally riding a bike. Now, this example has been beaten to death, I know, but the first time you ride a bike, you're thinking of your legs and your hands and you're wobbly. But eventually, you just think about where you're going. You're using your eyes. In this case, you're going to be using your ears. These final tools will be vital to your success. First of all, you're going to want to download a recording software. I know, okay? You don't like recording your voice. You don't like hearing it. On top of people just not like hearing their own voice, we have dysphoria. I get it. It fucking sucks. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't, but you have to do it. You have to download a voice recorder because you need the objective feedback, literally the feedback of your own ears, but also it gives you an incredible advantage in learning how to get your voice. And that is saving the best sound files in a session. So let's say you've done 50 minutes or 20 minutes of trying to achieve a passable female voice. You've been doing trial and error because this is a lot of trial and error. There's going to be a sound file in that 20, 30, 50 sound files that you took that sounds much more feminine because at some point you had your larynx raised a bit more and your mouth was a bit more constricted the way it needs to be. You save that file. You listen to every single recording after you make them, and you save the best ones. Think of this as being lost in the woods. Every now and then, you start in the right direction. However, you kind of deviate left a bit, left a bit, left a bit, and now you're going the wrong way. And then you don't know how you got on the right path to begin with. A lot of trans individuals that start practicing empathize with this. They start feeling like they're making progress, and then they lose it because they don't remember how to do what they were doing. By saving sound files, you're basically making a blueprint for yourself. You can imitate your voice very easily. Think of each sound file like a brick. So you've had one session, you have one good sound file, you lie that brick down. Now you have a foothold, okay? If you start deviating left, you know where to go back to. And you find the next sound file that's even better than this one. That's another brick. You keep laying those bricks down and eventually you're going to get to where you want to go. They're so important. You need to record your voice 100%. And how do you do that? This is how you do that. So here's what your workflow should look like. You're saying the word seriously or any sentence that makes sense to you about 10 times while recording your voice. You're doing that trying to imitate a female voice. You can use my voice or any VR chat voice trolling video works. That's how I did it if you want to follow my path. But you can use literally any female voice that you like and try to imitate that voice while recording your voice and applying, raising your larynx and your mouth space. It's important to remember this. Resonance is the key. Do not use your vocal cords. I'll explain to you why. Using your vocal cords can cause unnecessary strain and potentially damage, will not sound passable, and will ultimately be wasting your time in what is an unnecessarily difficult task already. So don't hinder yourself by doing this wrong. Continuously look at how to raise your larynx and shrink your mouth space, and eventually you will get there. A few more things that I want to include before this video is concluded. Posture will help a lot. A straight back, and you can hear it already. I just fixed my posture. I'm coming out much clearer. As well, breath and how much breath you apply is very important. I'm a very boisterous person when I'm making content, so I'm using a lot of breath. But if I were to like cut that down by a lot, it's a lot easier for me to sound much more feminine. I hope this helps you out. The third video that I'm going to be making is going to be answering any questions that you have. So if you have questions, put them in the comments because I want to take the most broad questions possible and answer all of them in one probably pretty long video. Don't forget to hydrate. All right. Bye.